Dear Dr. Mohamed Makame, Assistant to the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, dear Mr. Hamis Juma, Dean of Students, and dear friends, colleagues, fellow students from Zanzibar University. Good morning once again. I'm very, very happy this morning to be part of you today. And this is my first time to visit Zanzibar University. And I hope we're gonna have a very exciting moment to discuss about the United Nations Volunteer Program in Tanzania. My name's Christian Mwamanga. I'm the head of the United Nations Volunteer Program in Tanzania. In Swahili, we call it mradi wa kujitolea wa Umoja wa Mataifa. Mradi wa kujitolea wa Umoja wa Mataifa. Whenever I stand in places like this, I don't feel very much comfortable. So you will excuse me, I'll keep moving around the hall so that we can get as close as possible and get to learn from your issues and questions that you might want to ask at the end of the session. Today, the discussion or the topic will be about mradi wa kujitolea wa Umoja wa Mataifa nchini Tanzania and how we can be part of it, how we can join the program immediately after finishing our studies. But also we are intending to use this platform to send a message to all our colleagues, dear brothers, sisters, our relatives, so that they can also utilize and make use of these opportunities that are available to work with the different and various United Nations programs and agencies that are operating in Tanzania. So I'm going to use a very short period of time to take you through a background, a few highlights about historical background, where we came from, where we are, and what we expect in the future. But most importantly, I'll be taking you through how our program works globally, including Tanzania, and how we can be part of the program, be it in Tanzania or outside Tanzania. So let me take you through a historical background of the United Nations Volunteer Program. The United Nations Volunteer Program is a unique organization and a unique program that was formed back in 1970s by the United Nations General Assembly. In December 1970s, that's when it was formed. And this organization, it has its own headquarters based in Bonn, Germany, and it operates in 146 countries globally, including Tanzania. And this organization in East and Southern Africa, it operates in about 22 countries, including Tanzania. And when it was formed back in 1970s, we were given a key mandate of about 3 key missions. These 3 key missions were: 1, we were given with the task by the United Nations to first of all advocate for recognition of volunteer contribution in development programs. There are a lot of volunteer activities that are happening globally, locally, even in Tanzania itself. But you realize that most of these contributions are not recognized. So our main and principal objective or mandate is actually to advocate for such contribution of volunteers work into development and peace activities globally. The mandate number 2, we were given with the task to basically help other UN organizations, all the UN organizations in the world, to integrate volunteerism into their daily businesses. So how do we do this? We were asked to help the programs, projects, and operations of the United Nations to basically acknowledge and integrate the work of volunteers into their mandate. And we have been doing that ever since. And then the mandate number 3, which is the last one, is the task of mobilizing an increasing number of volunteers globally to serve as specialists, to serve as volunteers and experts with different UN organizations. So we are recruiting on behalf of other UN organizations. We are helping other UN organizations to make use of the United Nations volunteers. And no any other UN organization that was given such responsibility by the UN General Assembly. We are the only one that we can do for the rest of the UN organization. Those are the 3 mandates that we were given when this organization was formed. And Tanzania was one among the first countries in the world to accept this program and start implementing the program since 1990s. And just to give you a bit of the statistics currently, the recent data shows that last year, 2018, we had more than 7,200 UN volunteers globally. This is such a big number of volunteers. And these volunteers were placed and serving in different countries. They were working in 146 countries, including Tanzania. And most of these volunteers, almost 42%, were women. Do we have women in this hall today? So about 42% were women. And 80% of the volunteers who served in the world were coming from the global south. So you realize that most of these volunteers were coming from the developing countries, 80%. So with the rest, about 20% were coming from the developed countries. These volunteers who served in the world, including Tanzania, they served with 152 nationalities. So they were coming from different countries with different backgrounds. So these are the nations where we managed to recruit and mobilize volunteers. In Tanzania, for example, we had more than 78 volunteers who served in Tanzania, including Zanzibar. So this gives you a bit of a highlight how many volunteers are currently serving or they have been actually serving in the past years. About the programs. The programs that the UN volunteers are supporting, most of these programs are actually implemented by the governments. Governments across the world, including Tanzania, are implementing these projects. And most of these projects and programs are basically receiving technical assistance from the United Nations. And therefore, what we do as UN volunteer is to basically mobilize experts, specialists in different areas to support the implementation process of these programs, projects, including operations of the United Nations organization that are working currently in the country. Also, what I wanted to basically let you know as we begin, it's good and very important to basically understand who are these volunteers. I know we have a number of definitions about volunteers. And we have currently so many volunteers are working across the world, in the country, in the villages, in the regions, even in our streets where we are coming from. We have so many volunteers. And even here at the school, perhaps we have different clubs that are working in different areas, maybe environmental protection clubs, etc., etc. And all of these are volunteers. But who are these UN volunteers? The UN volunteers are basically professionals. And these are the graduates. These are educated professionals who are actually willing and are able to share and exchange their time, their ideas, their skills, their knowledge, and their experiences on voluntary basis. The UN volunteers are professionals who are willing to share and exchange their ideas, their skills, their knowledge, their work experience on voluntary basis. So this is a true definition of the UN volunteers. And the UN volunteer program has a number of modalities. Some of us have already been asking themselves, can we ever be part of this workforce that are working as volunteers, if at all we are looking at those who have graduated with experience? The answer is that everyone and each one of us has a place, has a role to play as a UN volunteer. And we have all gotten equal opportunity to compete and access the opportunities that are available and available to us. So we have about 4 different categories of United Nations volunteers. First category, we call it International UN Volunteers. International UN Volunteer Specialists. Let me add the word specialist. International UN Volunteer Specialists. Who are these ones? International UN Volunteer Specialists, most of these guys are experts. First of all, they have graduated. They're either having maybe 1 degree or master's or PhD, and they have almost more than 5 years experience in the work environment, and they are willing to serve outside their countries. Let's say, for example, you are a Tanzanian and you want to work outside Tanzania, so you will qualify to be recruited under a modality called United Nations International UN Volunteer Specialists. That is just one category. The second category is the National UN Volunteer Specialists. These are nationals from their own countries who are willing to serve and offer their services within their own countries. Let's say we are, for example, Tanzanians, and we are willing to serve as UN volunteers in our own country. Therefore, we'll be able to serve as National UN Volunteer Specialists. But why are we saying specialists? It's because we request from you to have at least an experience, work experience, of about not less than 2 years experience. So the minimum is 2 years experience and onwards. We have another category, component of the UN volunteers, and this is UN youth volunteers, of which I think majority of us, we all qualify to be one soon, immediately after our graduations. And with this group of the UN youth volunteers, we are looking at the age category from 18 years to 29 years. So if you are above 29 years old, it means you overqualify, and therefore we won't recruit you as a UN youth volunteer, but rather we shall recruit you as a specialist. Because first of all, we assume that a person with more than 30 years old would have at least an experience or working experience. We'll come back to that. I know you're already burning with a number of questions. At the end of this presentation, we'll have a session of questions and answers. So this is one group. And in terms of experience, for these youth volunteer groups, we are not focusing on experience. We are looking at basically about 2 years experience and not more than that. So it's between 0 and 2 years experience, of which perhaps in the next few years or next few months, you will be qualified. That is another group. We have another modality that we are also implementing, and this one is called UN Youth University Volunteers. Can I see some smiles? So we all qualify in this group and this category. Right now, even before you graduate tomorrow. And this is the most recent modality that we have just launched. It doesn't have more than 5 years old since we launched this category of UN volunteers. And this came from a request of most UN member states and most countries, and given the demand from the young people across the world. And also we are trying to respond to the call of most recruiters and employers who are basically looking at the people or young people with experience. So as the UN, we said, okay, we need to prepare young people right from their universities before they graduate, so that when they join the labor market, at least they will have the right attitude, skills, and personality that will help them to get employment. So we help them to develop some employability skills. So with this group of university UN volunteers, we are looking at the age of 18 to 29 years old. And in terms of experience, we are looking at 0 experience to 2 years experience. So it means if you have 1 day experience of doing an intern or field work somewhere, you're already qualified and you can apply to work either within Tanzania or outside Tanzania as international UN Youth University volunteer. And in terms of contract modality, these university volunteers are able to serve for a minimum of 3 months to a maximum of 6 months, because we believe that these university volunteers, first of all, we have a number of criteria that we're looking at, and one of these criteria is that this young person must have been registered and serving at a particular university, and must have a recommendation from the university where you are registered. And you must be either in the 3rd year or the 4th year of your studies. And the experience that you're gonna get within the United Nations, within the UN, because we attach these volunteers to UN organizations. So we believe that this experience that you're gonna get, it must contribute to your academic references or academic qualifications. Those are the criteria. I think we shall go back to that particular aspect and discuss more when we open up for questions. I'm just now giving you tips and highlights on each of these modalities that we are functioning or implementing. Also, we have another category of UN volunteers. This category works for those who are very busy. They don't have time to serve on-site, but they are still willing to volunteer with us, offer their knowledge, their expertise on different areas, but they are willing to work remotely without necessarily being assigned to a particular duty station. So this is critical. We recruit you and we recognize you. Maybe for some reasons, maybe family reason, you cannot relocate yourself from Zanzibar to Kenya or to Nairobi or to any other country. Or maybe you cannot resign from your workplace that you are currently serving, but still you are interested to serve as a UN volunteer on voluntary basis. Therefore, you have a space to serve with us, but what you need to do is actually you need to apply to to serve as a UN volunteer. We shall recognize you as a UN volunteer, and we shall keep giving you assignments from different UN organizations, and you'll be able to deliver those tasks and responsibilities remotely using your internet. So you must have an internet. For example, we might ask you maybe to design a page. You know, if you're a graphics designer, you are requested to draft maybe a page of a particular report, maybe from UNICEF or UNDP. They are looking at a graphics designer to design a cover for their reports. Or maybe we have done a survey, or a particular UN organization implemented a particular survey or research, and they need a data analyst to help them interpret the data and analyze the data. Therefore, we shall go and make use of our own online volunteers who are expert in that area. So it really depends on the nature of assignments or requests that we receive from different UN organizations globally. And therefore, you don't have to serve for Tanzania only. You can be here based in Zanzibar, but you are serving a particular UN organization which is based in Iraq or Liberia or Nigeria or in any other country around the world. Let me just finish with two last points. In which sectors are these volunteers working? We work in a number of sectors, in all sectors regardless of our specialization, ranging from agriculture, health, education, vocational training, poverty, energy, environment, human rights, gender, youth affairs, community service, etc., etc., etc. We have more than 151 database of professional categories that we are looking at. So everyone has a space.
Volunteer in other program. You say that you are assigned work outside of the country or inside of the country. So my question is, does a person has a choice, or a member of the UN volunteer program has a choice to either reject or accept the assignment that is assigned for him to perform? No? That's
all. Degree accounting finance. Lango ni kama ifuatavyo. Kwa mujibu wa ulivyozungumza kwamba hii UN volunteer inahusisha professional people na hasa wanafunzi wa vyuo. Je, hamuoni kama vile matabaka wale ambao si professional people katika society au sasa?
To know that if the UN volunteers do, they have a chance to sit in the UN meeting or like other UN staff does. Chairs, you understand? Okay. Do you have the chance to participate as the member of UN in any meeting that is?
Where exactly? Within the country, globally, or?
No, in the head. When the UN members sit.
Why age inakuwa 18 mpaka 29 wakati youth age inaanzia 18 mpaka 35?